You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast, recognized as one of the top 100 diversity and inclusion podcasts in the U.S. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. Now, today I'd like to share with you a few thoughts about when racism seems protected by free speech. So, just recently, a white woman in Rochester, Minnesota, was found guilty of disorderly conduct after hurling racial slurs, specifically the N-word, at a Black autistic 8-year-old child on a playground. The incident occurred in April of last year, caught on video by a bystander who was also Black, who saw what she saw as being accused of cussing during an encounter at the child. This woman argued that her reaction was justified because she found this 8-year-old boy reaching into her diaper bag while at the park. After a very long legal process, the jury found that while she was not guilty of disorderly conduct against the child, she was found guilty of disorderly conduct against the man recording her child in the reaction. And as you might imagine, there has been a lot of feelings generated by not only the original incident, but also the outcome of the trial that resulted from it. With many people feeling encouraged by the legal accountability and consequences for this woman after what they deemed to be unacceptable behavior, and others feeling as though the true injustice was that this woman was being punished despite staying within her right to the freedom of speech. And here's where a significant dilemma arises. Is offensive or hate-filled speech protected by the right to freedom or speech, and thus the freedom of consequences? Freedom from consequences? I'll admit, I don't have the answer to this very heavy legal question. However, even without the answer to end all debates, the question itself impacts what I do care about, and that is the personal professional relationships that are impacted by differences in reactions to this topic. And so, if you'd allow me, I'd like to share a few considerations that may help in the event that you find yourself in a difficult conversation about the limits of the right to free speech, especially when it's used to express hate. The first consideration is this: it's reasonable to protect the freedom of speech. Let me first say that not everyone who is uncomfortable with this ruling is a defender of the N-word being accused or any other negative or insulting, hateful speech being expressed. No, some are just shocked that the conviction even occurred, mainly because without any actual physical altercation occurring, the only thing that's left for them is words. And words, even very undesirable words, have historically been protected by the right to the freedom of speech. This history, plus what's caught on video, may have even influenced this woman feeling so free to openly admit to cussing and screaming an N-word at the child and the bystander during this incident, particularly or potentially concluding that as long as she doesn't actually touch either of the two, then she can say whatever she wants and nobody can do anything to her. And apparently, she was wrong. Interestingly, although the incident started with verbal aggression toward the child, she was found not guilty with respect to her actions toward the child. and instead was found guilty of her actions toward the bystander taking the video, which from most accounts seems to have been vastly similar. Negative, verbally aggressive insults, and still just to them words. I don't know what made the jury say not guilty for one and guilty for the other, instead of guilty for both or not guilty for both. But nonetheless, at least one count was guilty, and thus she finds herself with consequences in the form of $1,000 fine, lots of community service, and probation, such that she won't have to do jail time unless a new incident occurs in the near future. Again, this makes people uncomfortable in part because the idea of going to jail over what they consider to be just words is a scary thought, and one that violates what they feel is a core right in this country. Without it, everything is in question. Based on this alone, it is understandable to be confused, to no longer know where the legal boundary line is. I'm not sure whether this will be an exception or the beginning of a new trend in accountability, but for now, I can understand why many people are confused. And still, there's consideration number two. Even if it's legal, it doesn't make it right. The phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, has been around since as early as the mid 1800s. I'm not only not new to this, but many people consider it one of their core life principles. So much so that it empowers them to express their feelings however they like, with firm boundary that as long as they don't cross the line and physically hurt someone, then their words are hurt-free and reasonable expressions of feeling, no matter what they are. The key here is that since they're considered to be hurt free, if you feel emotionally hurt despite no finger having been laid on you, then you are the one who is considered to have the problem, to be too sensitive, to be the one in the actual wrong, especially if you blame someone else for you being too easily hurt. Interestingly, despite the fact that I grew up hearing about limitations of sticks and stones as well, as a mental health professional, I know that it's not that simple. Sure, expressing our feelings of frustration through words can be a lot better than physically harming someone. However, this doesn't change the reality that some people and some words have immense power to cause mental, emotional, and even physical harm. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a great example of how incidents can create a significant perceived danger, can also result in mental, emotional, and physical symptoms that are detrimental, debilitating, and long-lasting sometimes, even if the perceived threat never actually resulted in physical harm. Even legally mandated child abuse may involve physical aggression, but can also involve neglect, starvation, locking kids in basement, or even verbally aggressive expressions of threats to their life if they don't behave, even if no actual attempts on their life were taken. The threat was so convincing in this case that it warranted a reportable physical or abuse and legal consequences. Why? Because there was an expectation that we protect children because they can't protect themselves, from adults at least. This case is interesting because whether or not the freedom of speech argument has merit, what we're talking about is an adult frustrated by a kid's behavior and then choosing to be very verbally aggressive to that child, not just about their behavior, but expressing who they are as a person, speaking into their identity and trying to cause as much damage as possible. Yes, it is understandably unsettling to be playing with your kid at a playground, to look over at the diaper bag you had sitting nearby on a bench and to see an unknown child reaching in and touching your child's toy or applesauce. It's reasonable to say, hey, that's not yours. Get your hand out of my bag. Or maybe even whose child is this? Can you come get them and keep them away from my bag? There is reasonableness in there. Nothing in that was said was overly nice. Shock is reasonable. Annoyance and frustration are all reasonable. That's not the problem. The problem arose when she continued and chased, cussed at, screamed at this kid, and called the kid the N-word, and later justifying it by saying, well, she could call him that if he acts like one. At that point, it went beyond annoyance. It went beyond that to an autistic kid who struggles with boundaries and has a history of running away, so much so that he wears a GPS device so that he can be found when he runs away, not punished, but found for his own well-being. This went beyond annoyance and retrieving a personal item. This went into using this as an excuse to express feelings about those kinds of people, what those kinds of people do, and to chase that kid, essentially attempting to scare them straight at best or put them in their place at worst. Thus, even if the freedom of speech is protected, this doesn't eliminate the need to protect children from hateful and potentially traumatic behavior from adults toward children. And then there's consideration number 3. Winning the case risks every undesirable speech being considered legally offensive. At the end of the day, this woman got a partial not guilty win along with a partial guilty loss. And yet, it feels like more. Because those who consider it a loss will begin a significant legal battle to appeal the conviction with unknown consequences. Not only that, those who consider it a win will need to prepare for retaliation, with many unhappy people watching and waiting for any undesirable speech to come from the other side, consider themselves to be offended, and then take them to court citing illegal hate speech. I was offended. You should be convicted too. This goes for politicians, public figures, comedians, as well as random neighbors on the street. To be honest, I don't know who's going to win, nor do I know what arguments they'll use in the process. But I think it's wise to acknowledge that until new lines are clearly drawn, this conviction, as minor as it may seem to many, has the potential to set a precedent that can impact everyone on all sides. With all that being said, my hope for you is that you'll be able to see multiple sides of this incident, this inconvenient incident and court result. As a therapist and relationship specialist, I'm a fan of supporting things that promote healthy interactions, even leaving room for expressions of a variety of positive and negative feelings. There is a healthy and an unhealthy way of doing such. Part of that is acknowledging not just the feelings of the one expressing, but also the feelings of the one on the receiving end. And as a therapist, I also know that you don't always have to determine the impact, or you don't always get to determine the impact of your actions. Your intentions may be to have one impact, but the outcome is not completely determined by you. Does that make you responsible for other people's feelings, or expected to know everything about everyone in order to protect them from themselves? No. However, it is reasonable to hope that despite what we have the right to do, we would hopefully make intentional efforts to learn as much as we can about everyone we encounter before making the wisest decisions possible along the way. Even as that relates to frustrated reactions, we can still learn to be measured in our response, just in case, and only escalate when we ourselves find ourselves in actual danger. For now, let's take it one opportunity at a time and help others to do the same. And with that, I'll say thanks again for tuning in to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you found it positive and insightful, then be sure to like and subscribe so I'll know which topics you'd like me to share more on in the future, and share with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. To find out how you can cultivate a culturally safe work environment for you and your team, visit lambertsfisher.com/playbook for a free guide. You can also learn more in my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, which offers unique ways to positively address the often divisive topic of diversity, equipping helping professionals like you in your efforts to meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself. And if you find it encouraging, share it with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
Welcome to Old National Bank.
I understand you're all about protection.
Well, we protect you in all kinds of ways, with advanced fraud monitoring and secure digital banking to protect you today, and with dedicated personal bankers to protect your tomorrow.
I'm impressed.
Protection for today and tomorrow.
Could I just...
Oh, go for it.
Old National Bank. Just another reason to get old.
Where'd you get this?
It came with my couch.
We talk a lot about meeting people where they're at, and that's always had meaning to me, but earlier this year, that really took a new shape. I really value the fact that we have a space where people can come in and to receive these services, but not all people feel safe anymore. coming out, going places, and just re-looking at what does it truly mean to meet people where they're at, and how do we effectively do that, has been a really big part of what this year has looked like for us.
Sometimes we believe those lies, that we are no good, that maybe, you know, this is all there is. And when I got sober, I realized, no, there's something more fighting for. And I'm out here every day fighting for it, for myself, for the women in my community, whom I love. But this Waymakers is a big part of that. So I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful. And I couldn't have done it without being sober, of course, and, you know, having the good support, because nobody can do it alone.
Once upon a time, there was a business with dragons to slay, trash that kept piling up, and waste at every turn.
I can help with that. Reducing waste is easy, you see. And the best part is that it's totally free.
If only it were that easy.
It's not magic. A real expert from Biz Recycling can help you find ways to reduce waste and save money at your business. Schedule a free site visit and get started today.